Hey, what is up guys, Massive here, back to do another video, and today I've got a game on Tournament Decision No Poker Edition. Now I was just talking about this map on the Discords. I was a little bit frustrated at the fences in the middle of the map because engineers seem to struggle to capture those defensive towers, don't they? So I will be fixing that in R22, which, speaking of, I'm going to start working on at the end of this month. There's probably not going to be that many balance changes, because me and many of the community are quite happy with how the balance is at the moment, but I will do my utmost to fix bugs further. Now there is of course a limitation when it comes to modding as to what you can fix, but I've pushed those boundaries in the past and I'm going to try and do so again. One of the issues that I'm particularly annoyed about that has always existed in the game is the fact that the shadow teams, when airborne, are detected by infantry below, which is kind of annoying. So if you fly over a buzzer, you get detected. That really is a bit of an oversight from the developers. So I'm going for this opening once again with the cybernetic legs. I really do love this opening, man. It's such a good strategy to do. Yeah, I think it's somewhat converted into a meta build, which I find amazing. The fact that engineers no longer get shot through spikes anymore due to a bug, resulting in this build order now existing, is just incredible to me. The fact that a strategy can suddenly exist due to it being reliable, that really is the key. So I'm going to capture 4 Tyrone spikes with the shadow team. If it weren't for the cybernetic leg upgrade, I wouldn't be able to get my engineers there in time. It simply would be unviable. The other alternative option would be to go for an air tower opening, which as not puts you very far behind, and the Venom doesn't give you the same harass potential as the shadow teams do. As you see, I've got the shadow teams out. My opponent has to respect those, otherwise they will land and take out a power plant. In this case, I didn't use the C4, but I can if I come across another power plant. But unfortunately for me, I'm going to have to get away from this position. I'm going to spread my shadow teams apart so I don't lose both squads. Sadly, one of the shadow team squads do get destroyed. If you got the 2 veteran ones from the support panel, you can bomb a power plant, a space command uplink, or a barracks. If you get a space command uplink, they've already paid for themselves. That's a $3,000 structure. But at that stage, GDI can always sonic repulsion field their buildings and defend. I'm going to use my C4 charges on this structure, de-garrison that one there. But there was a little bit of a fence, so that shadow team couldn't, you know, jump over that fence. In the real world, I guess maybe they would, or they'd use the fence for cover. Not entirely sure, but it does prevent the pathing. So I'm going to build further engineers. This is the beauty about playing Mark Decay, man. Once you've got that cybernetic leg upgrade, especially in the early game like this, where there's no real threat of hammerheads, you can just do random engineers to your opponent's base. Look, I sent one to my opponent's refinery, but he has a rifleman squad going for that saboteur there. So that saboteur will be forced to go back. It is very quick. So I'm going to try and capture the refinery on the other side of his base. I don't think he even spotted that there. That was just a scouting rifleman squad. I'm trying to stop my spikes from getting recaptured because I do currently have a 4 spike advantage. But that has come at a cost at my refineries and harvesters, as I only have 1 refinery. I do just now placed out my second one, and there is a saboteur going to my opponent right now. So just based on the first 1 or 2 minutes of this game, there's already so much happening. This is what I love about this opening, and no longer can engineers be shot through the refinery by the harvesters, which is just great as well. And I was very frustrated here, as mentioned in the start of the video, at this annoying bug with the saboteurs, man. They just, and any engineer in particular, they just don't want to capture these defensive towers. I'm going to fix that in the next update though, so that will not be a thing on this particular map. Fortunately though for me, I do manage to just grab this defensive tower, and I'm going to be able to start working on these units here. And seeing all these units going to my base, I'm going to panic here and build a bunch of militant rockets. Now with Mark Kane, you don't get the Confessor upgrade, but you do get the Tiberium Infusion upgrade. He finally just realizes that I've captured his refinery there. I'm going to sell that off, get the $700. I get the Tiberium infusion upgrade as well, which is just great. It's going to allow me to catch up with those pitballs. In fact, I don't just have it yet, but I'm working on the secret shrine now. And I'm building Reckoners, which have more armor now with the Dozer Blade upgrade. It's plus 30% armor for the Reckoners, which makes them viable in the mid-game. Before, they were kind of a joke. Sure, they're good next to War Factories, but that's not how they're used in PvP, because your opponent can always just move around them. But I mean, to use them offensively in the mid-late game is very difficult, because they just don't have the armor to withstand the gun damage mostly. But with that Reckoner Dozer Blade buff, they're going to be able to withstand a little bit more punishment. And with these Reckoners being full of rockets and Tiberium Troopers, I'm going to be able to do some sick damage to this base. Dozer Blade upgrade not yet complete, but I do get the Tiberium infusion, so now my infantry is going to be extra speedy. My spikes do get capped back. I'm going to try and take out these harvesters here. The Tiberium Troopers are also slowing them down. And it's just been unorthodox tactic after unorthodox tactic. I've got a couple of Raider Buggies too, in case there are Orcas and Hammerheads. And the bulk of his army will respond to these Reckoners here. Dozer Blades do come online, so you're going to see just how much punishment these Reckoners can take. But it still makes them vulnerable. It's not like they're invincible with plus 30% armor. These forces of the GDI will quickly dispose of these Reckoners. And this attack is quickly faltering for me. All that planning time seems like it is for nothing. I've got a bunch of rocket squads, which as Master Kane is pretty unorthodox, it must be said. Harvesters are taking damage. And I got the EMP, and I'm considering using it on these APCs. I'm going to start using those militant rockets on the watchtowers. Destroying these Shadowers is of my utmost priority. I throw down an EMP on the Shadower and take out the other one. I'm going to go ahead and target the units that I can destroy. These high value targets like the Shadow tanks, I'm going to try and focus down first. I get as much as I could in that attack, but now with the AP ammo upgrade researched, I'm not going to be able to inflict any more damage. And this attack will be halted, unfortunately for me. And the bad news is that did not do really much to him economically, and he's got a refinery now on the expansion. I'm going for beam cannons to try and siege his base because I'm a long way off from tier 3. I dropped down at the shops in town, so this refinery will be unnoticed for now. Beam cannons, of which I have 5 as of now. And this game, pretty crazy, I will admit. I'm going for beam cannons. Forces moving up to the top, but my enlightened squads will make quick work of them with the huge EMP blast radius that they have. And I'm concerned about hammerheads here. I've used my EMP, so I'm going to be forced to move this back. And because I don't have Tiberium core, the next best thing is the quad turret upgrade for those SAM turrets, which is going to make short work of those hammerheads. I'm going to take a bit of a gamble here and hope there are no hammerheads. Try and do some economic harassment to him because I'm behind in economy. Only one refinery, one harvester on my expansion. He has more going on there. I do maintain a spike lead, however. And the quad turret upgrade has just been researched. Beam cannons, they're going to be great against the Shadower tanks. I should really start targeting the Shadowers with the beam cannons. The Enlightened can take care of the rest, but the Shadower tanks, man, they deal a ton of damage. With those beam cannons combining their beams, they can inflict a ton of damage on targets such as the Shadower. And they are way more reliable in this community patch since they have randomized pre-fire delays, so the beam cannons will almost always combine their beams and not split up like they did in the patch before. And it's easier for me to take the spikes back because I have these cybernetic legs. I'm making this Mark of Kane strategy work. I'm going for an air tower now. No tier 3 just yet for me. It really is time to build a tier 3, but I have to maintain control of this area here. And I've got beam cannons, and I'm thinking of using the reflector beam ability on the beam cannon, but a bug was fixed again with this R21 update, and that is if the beam cannons are reflecting their beam off of Venom and the base is stealthed, that means the Venom will unstealth. So if the Venom is reflecting a beam off of a beam cannon, even though it is being stealthed by the Disruption Tower, it will unstealth, which wasn't the case in the vanilla game. You would need stealth detection to even detect that Venom. Nevertheless though, I'm going to chain these beam cannons with the Venoms and see if I can target his base. There's a couple Juggernauts there, which I can't really hope to kill with the beam cannons. I've got lots of beam cannons, 8 of which are ready to go, and I'm going to just be out of range. I need to make sure these Venoms are positioned correctly. And now here comes the attack with the reflective beam. Now sadly for me, I could not fix the reflective beam ability in not bugging out. Sometimes the beams do not combine properly. I will attempt to fix this in R22, but I believe there's a limitation just because it's not a weapon, it's a special power. So here are the hammerheads. The best I have against these are my quad turret SAM turrets. I used the EMP, which I captured earlier on. Sadly only managed to kill one of the hammerheads, so that could have been a lot better. And now I'm looking in trouble because there is a Marv in the top of the map harvesting that field, and there's also Juggernauts sieging my base. I've got EMP in the form of the Enlighten. I'm desperately trying to throw down some watchtowers. More SAM turrets will be built. I need them. I just have that SAM hub turret as my AA and a couple Venoms back there. That's all I have. This base is stealth. I got double Voice of Kane. You can build more than one now in this community patch. I know Brokered, right? You can build more than one Voice of Kane. Apparently EA thought that was insanely OP, so they just limited it to one. Well, guess what, guys? It's not OP, and it was just an arbitrary limitation. Somehow there's a Shadow Team there. Yeah, there's a Shadow Team right there. Must have been a misclick. Well, those don't auto-target vehicles anymore. They just can't target vehicles like sniper teams, which makes sense because they're sniper damage units.
Rig packed up and ready.
And these Venoms, man, I mean, they don't have much damage without supercharged particle beams against Venoms, but against aircraft, but they're gonna be coming in use here and taking out those forces. I did manage to hold that attack, but I'm not going to be able to take on the next wave. My best bet at this point would be to build more Enlightened squads and try and take on that Marv. I've got Venoms here to deal with the Hammerheads. Enough Venoms to scare back 1 or 2 Hammerheads, which is necessary, otherwise he would just kill my whole army of Enlightened. That's why I'm building Raider Buggies predominantly for the Hammerhead threat. I'm going to maintain my refinery there for as long as possible. I need to try and unload as much Tiberium here as possible. I don't want him to set up refineries on a field full of Tiberium, so I'm going to try and eat up as much of that as possible. I'm getting my Enlightened behind this Marv to exploit the armor weakness of the Marv at the rear. It does take 25% extra damage from the rear. Usually it's plus 50%. But in the case of epic units, it's a 25% penalty for the rear armor. Nevertheless, that's quite a significant increase, and it's worth it just to maneuver your forces to gain that advantage. Just a lone disruption tower there for me. Those give in Awaken little members. I know it's weird, but the funny thing is EA said it was weird in the notes for the Voice of Kane's to give squads when sold off, yet they made the disruption tower do the same thing. Like where are the forces being held inside of a disruption tower? I don't know where they could possibly physically be, but yeah, I don't know. I decided to just give Voice of Kane's the ability to have that as well. But anyways, I've got this big engagement happening here, lots of EMPs being thrown down. A bit overkill using the EMP power, but I needed this army to stay alive, man. I have nothing to replace this with, so all the APCs will be EMP'd out of action, and that army just got absolutely shredded by these Enlightened squads. And now the forces of Kane are going to start taking out this GEI base. This Steel Talon base is in jeopardy. The tier 3 goes down. Grenadier spawns, those do huge damage against Enlightened squads. Need to be very careful I don't take splash damage from those. And as always, I'm concerned about the AP ammo Hammerheads. I got a handful of Raider Buggies there, and these Enlightened can run, I suppose. But 4 buggies, man, that's not particularly good. I've got 6 Raider buggies and 2 Venoms. And I'm going to start working on this base now. I do have no refineries yet set up on the expansion at the top. He did Marvis that Tiberium. He's got AP ammo. Also Behemoths in the back. And I'm trying my best here to take on these APCs without the supercharged particle beams. Enlighten, as you know, don't have much DPS with the regular green charged particle beams. But in the recent community patch, this was increased by 10%, which is why we're seeing this strategy not fall apart instantaneously. I'm going to pull these Enlighten out of the fight. That's a heroic one. Still maintains the 3 members that will heal over time. You can't get squad members lost back for Nod factions. So if you got a heroic Enlightened and you lose a dude in it, then you won't be able to get it back. It's impossible. Unless you somehow capture a GI armory and put the Enlightened in it, which is highly unlikely. Even more so against Steel Talons, who don't even have armories. So I'm going in once again for another attack. MCV has moved to the front line. So these APM and Watchtowers I'm going to have to contend with soon. My Raider buggy count is diminishing. Those buggies have all but been destroyed, and now I'm definitely vulnerable to Hammerheads. Going to be forced to pull back. Venoms will be moving forward. Going to deal with these Rifleman Scouts, and really with the expansion refinery setup, I should just buy my time, build a tier 3, get the supercharged particle beam upgrade. It will make my Enlightened squad even more powerful. So I start researching that upgrade right away. It's a $2,500 upgrade. It was reduced in R21. Still takes a minute to research. It's 30 seconds for Black Hand to get the charged particle beam upgrade, but they don't get Venoms to benefit from that upgrade. The supercharged particle beam shredder turret deals the same DPS as the Black Hand charged particle beam shredder turret. Originally in 1.0, that was not the case. The supercharged one dealt way more damage. But it didn't take a genius to figure out that that was OP. It would kill almost everything on the ground, which was silly. But so many things were silly about the base game. But I've got the Spectres out here to deal with these Juggernauts. Plus, I do have a Shadow Team, which I'm going to combo with these Spectres. And I'm going to use a Nava expansion pack ability. That is the Shadow Team Spectre Beacon. And if I deploy these beacons, I can bombard anywhere on the map. I don't have to move my Spectres into position. With just a Shadow Team, I can bombard anywhere. And it's not like the Juggernauts either, where the damage type is converted from cannon to grenade. It still maintains the cannon type damage, so it will destroy vehicles even from the beacons. This isn't the case for Juggernauts. They do barely any damage to vehicles when bombarding. Fortunately, otherwise that would be pretty OP. But in the case of Spectres, they aren't as good as Juggernauts. They take forever to deploy. It's really the problem I have with them. But if you made them any better than they are, then it would really break the balance, because Vertigo Bombers already deal huge damage to GI artillery, and with the Spectres being better, it would just break that balance. You would see Nod suddenly overwhelm GDI in artillery fights. So there is a fine balance there, and the beam cannons as well are an artillery unit, which Nod factions gain access to at tier 2. It is tier 3 in Tiberium Wars. They did the right thing in Kane's Wrath and made it a tier 2 unit. Allowed for many more strategies to be viable. You can even counter base pushes as well. The Watchtowers are very powerful in this game with AP ammo. But now I have the supercharged particle beam. There's some Pipples roaming in my base, taking out my harvesters, and I was like, man, there's no way that should work. I have Heroic Enlightened. and supercharged particle beams. And those pit bulls should be easily dealt with. They don't have the mortar upgrade. If they did, then they could deal some damage to the enlightened squads. But now the Spectres have found a great place to start bombarding this Conyard. I throw down the EMP, nail 2 of them. And with that, the threat of pit bulls will diminish. There's only 2 left. And now I have to be only concerned about hammerheads. The enlightened I have, the Spectres, it should deal with anything on the ground that moves. I'm only vulnerable really to infantry and air, which Venoms can at this point deal with nicely. Plus I have the secret shrines, so shadow teams would be a good choice against the infantry as well. Another thing I could do here is move my MCB to my opponent. Go do some recon. I don't want to throw away this advantage that I have. The sole advantage really is that heroic enlightened squad. If I somehow lose it, then the game is going to be definitely much harder for me to win. But with the juggernauts EMP'd, it didn't take very long for those enlightened to finish them off there. And just look how much damage that heroic enlightened squad is doing, basically soloing that force. The command post goes down, but there is an airfield. But I've already anticipated this. See, I'm thinking in my opponent's shoes, what would I do if I were him? Well, the answer would be not APCs, because the enlightened can deal with them very nicely. What would work, however, is a bunch of sniper teams inside of the APCs. The heroic enlightened would probably tank 1 or 2 of those sniper team shots, but nonetheless it would pose a threat, and he'd be able to move across the map. Because hammerheads just won't quite cut it against the supercharged particle beam venoms. And with that, that's going to be the game. And I thought that was a pretty awesome game on Tournament Decision, showcasing a lot of things you can do as Matt Kane with the Spectrum Beacon Bombardment, the Reflector Beam Venoms, the Shadow Team opening, the Enlightens, basically every possible strategy you can imagine as Matt Kane, even the Saboteur Fast Leg strategies on this map. The only thing that was lacking in that game was the epic units and the avatars, but really everything else was utilized in the Nod arsenal, including Tiberium Infusion, not Mock Infantry, which by the way is now a little cheaper to acquire. It's only $500 now for the Tib Infusion upgrade. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed this game, guys. I really did have a blast playing it, and I have some more awesome games to showcase. I want to bring you all some memorable games of mine, some real highlights, and I think that was one. Anyways, I appreciate you all for tuning on to this stream, and I would like to say a big thank you to my Patreon followers for supporting me and my channel, and I will catch you on the next video, guys. So this is it from me. I'll see you all later.